Omar Aigbedion, um, joining us now. I like how you say it, Omar. I've heard you say your last name. It sounds more like Aigbedion when I've heard it. Yeah. Oh, we got to get
Here
Omar's. Oh, there he is.
we
Wait, I
go.
didn't I didn't have your sound for a second there, Omar, but
It's
I
all good.
always loved when you got to Baylor because you made sure people knew the right way. And of course, you know us in Texas. And you're from Texas, from Katy. I was always wanting to get it right and wanted to say it the way you like
Right.
it said.
See, you almost had it. It's Aigbedion instead of in.
Aigbedion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I was even
Sir.
calling my Baylor buddy today, like trying to say it. I've even practiced for you, Omar. So no, it's my fault.
That's
But
okay.
Betty on. I like
Yes,
that.
sir.
Yeah, Omar, Aigbedion.
Perfect.
Hey, welcome to the Mosley Show,
Thank you. I'm
and
so happy
it's
to be
great,
here.
great to see you. That was fun to see you at Pro Day the other day,
Yes, sir.
and I was wearing my sunglasses indoors, and that way I was able to tell you guys, okay, remember, I'm the guy when I text, I'm the guy you're coming on with. I don't have them on right now, but man, how's it been since the Pro Day? You really caught a lot of attention. You were one of the headliners at Pro Day, 31 reps of 225 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Um, I know you were excited about that. I know your teammates were excited about you.
Sir.
What's been the reaction? Have you heard from a few more teams, and how's it
Um.
been?
So lately it's been a little bit quiet. I've been talking to my agent, and he's saying like once all the pro days get concluded, that's kind of where when you're here a little bit
Mhm.
more. But yeah, I was super happy and super blessed with my pro day performance, and yeah, I'm just been down here in Waco, just working out and staying ready for an opportunity.
Okay, so now preparing for this draft, who have you used? Obviously, you probably like a lot of the Baylor strength and conditioning people, but a lot of you guys then go work with certain people. Some of
Right,
you
right,
guys have worked with people in Frisco. I know there's
right,
guys in Houston that do this.
right,
Who did you use, Omar, to kind of get ready
right.
for this process?
So I trained at Built For It, which they have two locations we trained at. One was in Prosper and one was in South Lake, so both in the Dallas area. The main two trainers were Jay Taylor and Chico. They do an amazing job preparing us for our pro day events. And like I feel like I had a great pro day, but I come back and look at all the people that trained with Bill for it, and all of them are hitting the numbers they wanted, and doing good things. So I have nothing but good things to say about Bill for it.
Is this like a lot of guys? Was this your dream to play at this level from the time you were a kid, or did you
Right,
kind of have to prove it to yourself, like even at Montana State and maybe
right,
even back that and Katy? I mean, you had
right.
a really interesting path. I mean, I was just reminding myself that I saw United States Military
Yes,
Academy
sir.
prep school
Yes,
at one point. So, like,
sir.
when did it kick into you that you're like, I want to be an NFL player? Was that at a pretty
Right.
young age?
I feel like at a young age, I definitely wanted to play in the NFL, but you know, when I was young, it looked so far away, like something, almost unachievable. And then, through my football career, coming out of high school, I wasn't highly recruited. I was a 3-star guy with only 2 FBS offers. So it was either Army or New Mexico State. And you know, I took my chance at Army. And going to Army, I realized that wasn't for me, and I ended up at Montana State. And at Montana State, I'd say that's kind of where the dream, I would say, came alive. I'm seeing like people off the Montana State roster, like Ty Okada, Daniel Hardy, Lewis Kidd, all those guys get NFL opportunities, and I'm seeing like I'm right there on the stage to make that happen. And then coming to Baylor, I just kind of wanted to give myself the best chance, like try to play on the highest stage I could, and really show what I can do.
How many teams reached out to you when you were at Montana State because you became an FCS All American
Yes, sir.
in the portal as quickly as it works? I would
Right,
think that grabbed a lot of people's attention because
right, right,
grading, your block grade. I mean, you had some of the highest grades in all of FCS.
Right.
Who was Baylor's competition at that point, would you say?
In my recruiting process, I had quite a few FBS and Power Five offers, but it really came down to that at this time I didn't have a Baylor offer. I took a visit to BYU and to Texas Tech, and yeah, I don't know. I really wanted to stay in the Texas area. After leaving my Texas Tech visit, I felt good. I felt like it was a good place to go, but it was just something that was missing for me. You know, I just didn't feel like that was home necessarily. And this is even before I had a Baylor offer. So I'm leaving the Texas Tech visit, and I'm kind of just like, dang, I want to stay in Texas, but I don't necessarily know if this is the place for me. And then at the time it was Coach Kaplovic, but he gets hired at Baylor and gives me a call, and he's pretty much telling me, he thinks I'm a great player, and he thinks he could help me develop into that NFL talent. So Baylor staff and really believe that they could get me to where I wanted to go, and I could achieve the goals I wanted to at Baylor University. So
yeah, that Kaplovic. That's interesting that you brought that up because some people were kind of mad at him. I think Baylor gave him a great offer and gave him a very good salary, and then he came, and then he I guess felt like he had a better opportunity, and he moved on. So that had to be another interesting aspect of this. You're like, okay, wait, who's going to be my O-line coach? Right. And then again, Mason Miller, the guy who ends up becoming your O-line coach. And again, we don't have to get into why this happened exactly, but something happened for him to leave the program during this past season. So you, in addition to your career having to go some different paths, right? You had further adversity that occurred. How much of an impact did he have on your career? And then how was that navigating that scene with middle of the year, your O-line coach is suddenly gone?
Right. I think it was, definitely challenging at first, but I felt like, Coach Babb was bringing in a new system, and it didn't necessarily change from O-line coach to O-line coach. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was too hard to transition, because I think Coach Miller is a great O-line coach, along with Coach Watts, who was there the whole time, And so being there with Coach Watts really gave me like that stability, and really helped me like learning and picking up Coach Babb's offense. So I think it was a little bit challenging, but we had such a great staff and such a great group of people helping the O-line that I feel like it was pretty easy to pick up the things I needed to.
Okay. And I mean, how do you prepare? I mean, that 31 reps keeps coming to mind, because that really caused some waves. And for O-linemen, even at the combine, the highest amount for an offensive lineman, I think, was 33. May have been an A&M guy. But I mean, as you were training, and it's almost not only just lifting weights, you almost have to kind of train for, okay, how do I get in this rhythm for this? How much of that day for you was just pure adrenaline, like having your teammates around and just being in a great headspace? And how much was it the prep for something like that?
Right. And I'll start off by saying I'm so blessed, because 10 days before the pro day, I pulled my quad. And, obviously that hurts your running events, but also like even laying flat on the bench 10 days before pro day, I couldn't do that without feeling that pain in my quad. So I think about a week before pro day, I still couldn't bench, and I was just in my room, doing hundreds of push-ups a day, just trying to make sure I stay strong. And then like the most I hit during training was 26 reps. So I think it was a lot of adrenaline, but also just we do so much preparation for this moment, and for it to finally be here, when the lights are the brightest. I think that's when I perform my best.
So, Omar, what were you now? Are you going to try to do any sort of private workouts now that maybe your quad's in a better spot, or well, go ahead and answer that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I'm looking for an opportunity to do some of these private workouts. I haven't necessarily got invited to anything.
Okay.
But even at the pro day, I say my quad was about 85-90%. So I was still able to go out there and do the events, as good as I could. So
what was your best thing when you were prepping and when you were 100%? what was your best 40 as you recall during training?
Right. I was, the stopwatch is a little bit quicker than the laser, but on the stopwatch, I was hitting things in the mid 4.8s and then like
Wow.
sub 1.7 split tens. But yeah.
Whoa. Okay. And then what about vertical? What was the best vertical you ever did?
Like 30. Like 30. At the pro day, I didn't end up jumping. I didn't end up doing either jumps just
Yeah.
because because of that quad. But yeah, I'd say the highest vertical was about 30. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I know Trigg was banged up too, but just to give
Yeah.
people perspective, he only did 27 at pro day, and that's a top flight, unbelievable tight end. So for you to move your weight and get a 30, that's pretty remarkable. Omar, what did they measure you at? Because you were always listed heading into the draft. I saw like 6'2", 310.
Right.
I know arm length is a kind of a big deal. Where did you come in on that front?
So I have like the measurements and all that, but I was 6'2.5", 83 and 1/6 arms. So I think that's 6'11 and a sixth. 10-inch and 3/4 hands, and then 34 and a quarter arms is what I measured.
That's good. That's good.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes,
What'd you say weight wise?
I was 301 on pro day.
Okay.
But, by the time it's time to get to playing, my goal weight is about 305.
Okay, and then tell me about your versatility.
Right.
You're viewed obviously as an inside, interior lineman.
Right.
I mean, would you be, and again, I bet you're open. Are you kind of open to playing all those spots in the interior?
Oh, yes, sir. And I spent a lot of time practicing all three inside positions. I spent like quite a bit. Like I was telling you earlier, I trained at Built for It. I was training like I do like the speed and pro day events with Chico and Jay, like I was mentioning, and then I did all my line work with Tyron Smith, Dallas Cowboys legend, and Aviante Collins, who also played for the Cowboys. So I spent a lot of time with those two, really developing my game at all inside three positions, so I could be ready to go.
If Tyron Smith ever got his arms on you, it was over, right? I mean, it was almost like their careers were over, and there were stories about like what he would do to folks, and especially you having that leverage of those 34 inch arms.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to short you. Did you say 34 and a quarter or 34 and a half?
34 and a quarter. Yes, sir.
What was the coolest thing though that Aaron you learned? Because I mean, we're talking about likely a Pro Football Hall of Famer,
right?
But one of the best to ever do it.
Right. Yes, sir. I think as far as O-line play goes, a lot of the drills are similar, but it wasn't necessarily the drills that I felt was such a unique and such a helpful thing. It was more like hearing his insight about how certain NFL players play certain things and to what to expect on these kind of plays. Do you know what I mean? Like he gave me a different insight than I was used to, especially coming from somebody with such a prestige resume as him. So just hearing his insight and how he thought about certain blocks and certain plays and certain leverage was really useful.
What do you think your best? I mean, most offensive linemen love to get out and run the ball and go after and be more attacking in that sense.
Right.
But obviously, you were great. You didn't give up a lot of sacks ever at any level.
Yes,
what do you prefer? Or you just kind of like it all?
I mean, I like it all, but I'd say a lot of my game is based on physicality. Even in the pass game, I'd say I'm a very physical player. In the pass game, I like to get my hands on early. I like to start the fight at the line of scrimmage, and then in the run game, I feel like I'm very aggressive. I never stop my feet. So it's kind of hard to say which one I like better, but I just think my game is really based off physicality and also preparation, I'd say.
And that part of the game, do you like the film work and kind of studying who you're going to be going up against? How big a thing is that for you?
That's absolutely like a top priority in my game. Like this season, I didn't give up a sack this season, and I think it was a lot had to do with like the off-season work and the position work I did outside of what we did at the school. But I also think it was because of my preparation. Like I spent hours studying each D lineman I was playing against every week. I stay after film and study like what's their go-to move on third down. How do they like to play the run? is this guy good with fitting his hands inside the O-line's chest? Like all things like that. He really helped me like slow down the game this year and really really helped me, I would say, like dominate because, I kind of already knew who I was playing against and exactly what he liked to go to. So on third down, when he was doing that arm over, I already knew it was coming.
Now, there was a guy from Auburn, Falk is who I'm thinking about, that's going to probably be in that first, he's almost certainly going to be a first round. But there are a lot of good, players. I'm just thinking they're all kind of going through my mind right now, even in the Big 12. And y'all didn't play Tech this past season. You did a couple of years ago. And they had some monsters this past year, but some of those guys were more recent.
Right.
Who in your couple of years at Baylor stands out to you that was a great test for you and maybe shows some of these NFL teams like, hey, I held my own against this guy that, has gone on to great things or is a big time prospect.
Right. I'd say, we played against a lot of great D-lines this year. I think I played pretty, like first game of the season was Auburn. I think I played pretty well versus Auburn, but I don't think that was my best game. But I definitely held my own. Like you said earlier, I played against Keldrick Falk and the Auburn D line, and I thought he was a good player. But I definitely think if you turn on the tape, you could see what I can do versus the top talents. And then following up second week SMU, I thought I had a really good game. I think Utah's D line was pretty good O-line. I suffered an injury that game, but when I was in, I feel like I was having a really good game versus Utah. So I think those 3 games would be really nice. And then also my last game of the season versus U of H, I feel like that was my best game of the season. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's what you did. You would lean on people, and over the years, the best Baylor linemen have been sort of those maulers, and you do not mind finishing blocks. The previous Baylor coach, several years ago, Art Briles and some of those guys used to kind of say they didn't mind if you played a little bit beyond the whistle.
Right.
And so it's interesting, isn't it, to find that edge, because it's like you don't want to get penalties, but you also, as a lineman, like sending a message, don't you?
100%. And it's like, anybody can, play hard for the first quarter, you know what I mean? But when you're going 4 quarters straight and, the person you're going against isn't stopping, you gotta match that energy or you're going to get dominated. So, yeah.
Omar, what do you think about some of these guys still at Baylor? So a couple of your guys left. One of your mates went to Kentucky.
Right.
Real good player. I should add. We don't get mad at him forever for leaving, right?
Right. Of course not.
But the Siraki brothers still remain. And I know there's a couple of others that maybe even some young guys and I know the new ones you haven't even probably met, but from the guys that you have been there, who do you see really from a leadership standpoint, and then just that next step for Baylor? Who do you see really stepping up in that O-line room?
Like you mentioned earlier, I think the 2 Siraki brothers, they definitely, when I think of leadership in that O-line room, I think it definitely goes to them. Caden Siraki started right next to me the whole season. And I just, I thought it was so special to watch him grow as the season went on. Like he was becoming a better football player each week, and that was super good to see. And I was super proud of him. And then the younger Siraki, he started Colton. He started the season as a backup. Not necessarily, I wouldn't call him a backup because he played quite a bit this season. He was basically the backup on all inside 3 positions. And I had to miss 2.5 games this year, and he stepped in with no problem. And then Colton also had to miss, I want to say a game and a half, and he was right in there. And I don't feel like our offensive line missed a beat. So definitely those 2, because they have that comfortability in the system. But then also I think there's 2 younger guys that have a lot of talent in Matthew Parker and Harrison Clough. I think those 2 guys it definitely impressed me in their freshman seasons, and they were out there competing like anybody else with the older guys, and they really have this this hunger just to be better at the game of football. So they were always asking me questions, always trying to get extra work in and things like that. So just off my mind and off the people that were on the roster last year, I'd say those 4 definitely stand out to me. And then, I would say those 4.
That's good. I like that. Getting a good scouting report on the
Yes, sir.
future Bears. Omar, is there how awesome that you got to work with Tyron Smith, again, one of the best left tackles to ever do it. But is there an interior lineman, whether it be a center or one of the guard spots that you've kind of loved watching over the last few years in the
Right.
NFL that you're like, man, I love how this guy plays?
Right. Yes, sir. One guy in particular, I watched pretty much every single game he played last season. His name is Quinn Miners, and he's the right guard for the Denver Broncos. I watched him quite a bit. You know, he's a very physical player, very strong, very violent with his hands. And then I also watched a little bit of Chris Lindstrom. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons. He's a right guard as well. And then recently, like this offseason, I've been watching a lot of the center from the Dolphins. I want to say his last name is Brewer.
Yeah.
His last name is Brewer, but I say those three definitely have been the people I've been watching the most.
Now, growing up in the being from the Houston area, were you a Texans fan or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I grew up a Texans fan. Before we moved out to Katy, we lived in the Houston area, so a little bit closer to inner city. Yeah, my dad was a Texans fan, and I was pretty much raised a Texans fan. So.
Yeah, there's something in the water because Cole Wilson, your teammate, he had a huge pro day, and
Right.
he's a Katy guy, yeah, that's pretty cool that both of you
Oh yeah.
guys are from that same area, and then both having how fun is that though when you're with your teammates and guys that have been
Right.
there next to you, and you're going for that next thing. Was that kind of fun to kind of almost try to drive each other?
Yes, sir. I think it's definitely cool. Like, I wouldn't even say just necessarily the relationship with Cole, but just a relationship with the rest of the draft guys. You know, we're all chasing the same dream, the same goal that we've had since we were kids, and just to see like how much hard work they put in there, put into their draft prep, and to see it come to life on pro day was really good and really nice to see. So yeah, I was really happy for the guys and how they did.
All right, and then last thing I had for you, what do you, Coach Aranda? It was kind of up and down on whether he would be moving forward, and obviously there was a lot of crazy things that happened this season, and I don't know how much that took away or how much you guys paid attention to that. But Dave coming back for another year,
Right.
how did and I know he's more of a defensive coach, but
Right.
what was your thoughts on being around him for a couple of years, and just what kind of impact did he have on you?
Right. I think Coach Miranda is a great coach, and he's had a major impact on me. You know, I'm so thankful for that staff for even giving me an opportunity. But Coach Miranda likes precise execution, focus, things like that. And I feel like physicality, all those things he preaches, I feel like our team didn't necessarily hold up to that standard last year, even though that's what he expects from us. So. Um, Yeah, I'm just super excited to see what they do with the squad that they have this year.
And the new O-line coach, who's kind of the
Right,
new old O-line coach, right?
right. Yeah.
Give us a little insight on him, and what do you think? You think that was a good move for the Bears?
Yes, sir. I think Coach Austin and Coach Watts, like they last year when Coach Miller had to step away, I just feel like they worked so well together, so hand in hand, and so um, I don't even know, so calculated together. It's almost like we didn't miss a beat. Um, Coach Austin, he has a lot of knowledge of the game. He worked for legendary offensive line coaches at Oklahoma, and I just felt like having those two was a really nice experience to have because they gave me a different insight than I necessarily got from Coach Miller. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I always joked with Coach Miller. I didn't know if I could trust a skinny O-line coach. I think he must have lost weight over the years, and I was like,
Right,
wait a minute, man, you're pretty skinny. It's like the new defensive coordinator is a big old lineman looking guy, and I'm like,
right.
okay, that's what I need
Yeah.
my line coach to look like, or my defensive coordinator. But well, Omar, very excited for you. And we can't wait to kind of watch where you end up, and no matter where you're drafted or where you sign, you're going to have a great opportunity somewhere, and I know you'll make the best of it. So
Yes, sir.
I thanks for doing this, and
Of course.
we'll be tracking you And when you find a team and you start your NFL career, I reserve the right to track you down and get you on again. Okay.
That sounds good. I'll definitely be there. I mean, you got my number now. Reach out anytime. You know, I had a great time on the show, and yeah, just anytime. You got my phone number. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Well, Omar Aigbedion.
Yes, sir.
Is the guy, and we'll be watching for you in the draft. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Have a good
rest. You too. There he goes, Omar Aigbedion. Really had a great run for the Bears 2 years and was one of their all-conference players and emerged as a leader. And just all the people in the program just have such wonderful things to say about him. And so I think he's a guy that if teams get him in an interview situation, he's going to light up the room. And he's just, as you can tell, is just a really fun guy to talk to. And he's going to be great.